In this video, we're going to be going over a complete guide to the Savage Divide expedition in New World. So we're going to be covering all of the boss mechanics and a lot of the general information regarding this expedition as well. So the Savage Divide expedition is an expedition intended for players level 65. So in order to access this expedition, you must own the expansion Rise of the Angry Earth. The Savage Divide does have a whole lot of unique drops, and this includes several different weapons that come out of the normal version and beyond in the expedition. There's also several different weapons called the primal weapons that come from mutation level 3 only. And there is also quite a lot of specific armor that comes out of this expedition too. So the armor drops from the Savage Divide can be obtained from mutation level 1+, and the armor consists of the primal armor sets. So the set is available in light, medium, and heavy, and the heavy set comes locked with strength, the medium is locked with dex, and the light set is locked with intelligence. Each set comes locked with 2 perks with a 3rd perk randomly rolled, and the perks are as follows for each set. So the helmet has elemental aversion sturdy energy, the chest is elemental aversion critical retribution, the gloves are elemental aversion shirking fort, the pants are elemental aversion shirking fort, and the boots are elemental aversion empowering breaker. There's also some shields that drop from the Savage Divide. The Dragon Scale is the one named shield that drops out of this expedition. You can obtain it from the normal plus versions of the expedition. Then there is a round shield, kite shield, and tower shield that can be obtained from the mutation level 3. And for jewelry, we also have 3 named pieces of jewelry that can be obtained expedition wide from the normal plus expeditions. And then we also have the primal jewelry that can be obtained from mutation level 2+. This is the amulet, earring, and the ring. There is also a mount item you can obtain from the Savage Divide. It comes out of mutation 1+, and it is called the Powerful Cavalier Crest. This mount item is going to give you a large boost to mount summoning speed. And I will make sure to link down in the description below the written version of this guide so you can see all of the drops and all of the perks that comes on all of the armor and weapons. So once you make your way inside of the expedition, you're going to encounter mostly beast type enemies. So this means you're going to want to have beast coatings and beast ward potions on hand. So whenever you get into the expedition, there's going to be a pedestal to your right. One player is going to need to head to the pedestal and grab the orb. They must then go down the ledge and place that orb into the empty pedestal beside the door. This will open the door so you can progress. However, there are several silverback smashers guarding the way, so you're going to need to take them out first and then progress through to the dungeon. This is going to take you into the vast chasm. So this is a very large open room. Whenever you're in here, you just want to clear the lions to the right and head to the door immediately to your right past those lions. Utilize your Azov staff to open the door, and this is going to lead you into the sunken shrine. Here, you're going to encounter a couple chameleons and one named chameleon, Styx. Styx doesn't have any additional mechanics other than normal chameleon mechanics, but be aware that he does hit much harder and has quite a lot more health. This is especially prevalent whenever you get on up into the higher mutations, M2 and especially M3. There is a respawn shrine right up the stairs from Styx though, so in M3 it's recommended that you pull him up to that shrine so that you can kill him there. Just in case any of your party members fall, you can be rezzed without taking a death penalty. Once you take him out, you're going to encounter another named mob, Hodari, a gorilla. He is coupled with another mob called a Thunder Charger. There's not a whole lot of mechanics here either, but both of these gorillas can do quite a lot of damage, so be aware of the charges and the slams they perform. Make sure your DPS or your squishies don't get too overzealous here, because the gorillas will jump on you whenever you get within a certain distance, and they can one-shot some of your DPS, so just be aware of that. Once killed, there's a path to the right with another named mob, the Death Razor, a large flower. So you're going to take out the named and continue down the path to the door guarded by an armored drake. You're going to kill that drake and you're going to go through the door back into the vast chasm. Make sure a party member picks up the sphere as you run up the stairs. You're going to take the sphere and place it on the pillar at the door to your right. The door is guarded by a Razor Lotus, a gorilla, some other trash mobs, so make sure the path is clear before taking the sphere to the door. And then once complete, make your way down the ramp to the east of the gate to Rockfall. Here, you're going to encounter a large named Drake Ziggit. Once killed, you're going to progress past him through the gate and grab the orb. This is going to take you back into the vast chasm once again, and here you're going to carry the orb to the ancient gate in order to progress. There's several trash mobs within the vast chasm, so be aware of those as you transport the orb. There's also some rock hurler gorillas on the ledge beside the gate, so be aware of those. And whenever you open this gate, you are going to be met with a named mammoth madhoo. Make sure if you are a DPS or a healer, you keep your distance here. Let the tank engage first, because this mammoth does do some ranged attacks and it could one-shot you if you get too close. There is, however, a secret chest here with Madhu. You can kite Madhu down into the center of the vast chasm and have him run into the big rock in the middle. This is going to crush the rock and reveal a secret chest. This is optional. You don't have to do this. And in mutated versions, you definitely don't want to do this, because the chest will be included with the chest at the end of the run. So only get this chest if you're running this on normal. It's an optional chest you can get while you're doing your run. So once you kill the big mammoth, you're then going to progress into the ancient crossing. There's going to be several trash mobs here you're going to need to clear before you make your way into your first boss. And this place is called the Den of Kurok. So upon entering the Den of Kurok, you are going to see a massive gorilla in the middle. You're also going to notice several different elemental constructions around the room. So these elemental constructions are a pivotal component to defeating the gorilla. The boss will head over to one of the elemental locations and empower himself with an element. And then after a short duration, one player from the group can go activate that same element. You will see a status effect of the buff above the boss's head. Once that gets to roughly about 5 stacks, then that's typically when the element will be available for a player to go activate it. There is a total of 4 different elements. There's nature, ice, fire, and lightning. So whichever player activates that particular element will be responsible for dispelling that element during the fight. So for example, if Kurok activates ice and then you go grab the ice element after a short duration, you are then going to be responsible for dispelling the ice mechanic for the rest of the fight. You can see which player has activated which element by the glowing circle underneath them, and each element has a different color. After Kurok has activated an element, you're going to periodically see these large circles on the ground. Whenever you see the circle that corresponds with your element color, you are then going to need to run into that circle to dispel it. If you don't, then after a short duration, a large burst of AoE will go off depending on the element, and it'll damage any player caught inside. This can get quite hectic once all the elements are active, so make sure each party member is responsible for an element. This is good to discuss prior to the fight so there's no confusion. So for example, before you go into the fight, your party members should call something like, I have first element, I have second element, third, and fourth. That way, every person knows when to go activate their element. This will cause a lot less confusion during the fight. When Kurok activates a particular element, he will have a variation of attacks. Whenever he activates fire, he's going to periodically send out large waves of lava. There are gaps between the waves that you can maneuver through, and there's usually 3 sets of 2 waves that occur. These waves will traverse from one end of the arena to the other. Fire, in my opinion, is one of the hardest ones to avoid in this entire fight. If you can get past fire, you should be fine to finish the rest of the fight. If you position yourself behind Kurok, you should be able to avoid both the waves and his dash that we're going to talk about here in just a moment. So that is probably the best place for you to position, is just directly behind the boss whenever he activates the fire element. Kurok also dashes from one end of the arena to the other, leaving behind a large trail of fire, and the fire will split into and disperse outward into 2 sections, and the fire does do quite a lot of dot damage, so make sure to avoid the trail. And again, the best way to do that is standing directly behind the boss, not to the sides of the boss, because you will get hit by the fire if you're standing over to the sides. And when he's empowered with nature, he's going to throw these large boulders into the air in a line, so make sure you move out of the way of the boulders when they're thrown. He's also going to periodically spawn these eruption circles on the ground. These are indicated by the small glowing green circles, so make sure you just move out of that area and out of those circles to avoid damage. Whenever he activates a lightning, he's going to summon a lightning ball and throw it at a player. He will also leap into the air and smash down on the ground, causing an AoE of lightning damage around him, so make sure you are dodging out of the way if you're a DPS or blocking if you're the tank whenever he does his big AoE slam, and make sure you're aware of the lightning balls that are thrown. And then finally, whenever he is empowered with ice, he's going to dash from one end of the arena to the other. This is going to leave a trail of AoE ice in a straight line behind him. The ice does deal quite a lot of dot damage, so make sure you stay out of that. He does perform an ice spike ability as well. Just go straight in front of him, much like the Ice Gauntlet's ice spike ability. Getting caught with this deals significant amounts of damage, so just make sure you dodge out of the way of that or block if you're the tank as well. After all of the elements have been activated, Kurok is then going to move into phase 2. He's going to become empowered with void energy. He will now throw balls of void energy at members of the group, so be aware of these. They explode and deal quite a lot of damage. He stays empowered with void energy for the remainder of the fight, and during this phase, you will also have all of the element circles floating around the area, so make sure you and your group is aware of the circles so they can be dispelled. This fight does get very chaotic, but in my opinion, the hardest mechanic of this fight is the fire. If you can avoid the fire, you should be fine to finish the entire fight. This fight can be done at range. It's probably a lot easier if you have a ranged weapon. However, in the current meta, you're probably not going to deal near as much DPS as you would if your entire team is melee. But if you are ranged, you can stand close to your elemental construction, and typically that's where it's going to spawn anyway. So if you grab ice, for example, and then you stand near the ice area, you can dispel that over there. So you could have the strategy of splitting it up. If you are melee, just be aware that you're going to be chasing the boss around the arena quite a lot, simply because the boss does do a lot of dashing and running mechanics. So just make sure your tank has aggro and then position yourself appropriately behind the boss and just DPS him down. Make sure you're standing behind him whenever he has the fire mechanic, because that does disperse over pretty much the entire arena. And you don't want to get hit by that because it does a whole lot of damage. And then once you take out Kurok, you're then going to progress into the Ancient Crossing. So once here, you're going to leap up the ledge to the left and clear some trash mobs along the path. Once cleared, you're going to jump off the ledge and into the Fractured Hollow, and you're going to encounter several trash mobs here that include some mammoths and gorillas. Once they're cleared, open the door to the southwest, and that's going to take you into the Lost Temple. Clear the trash mobs along the way and progress past the locked button on the ground up the stairs. Once up the stairs, you encounter a couple of named mobs. You're going to have to clear them in order to activate the buttons to open the door. One player is going to need to stand on the button down the stairs and one on the button beside the named mobs that were just killed. This is going to lead you back into the Fractured Hollow, where you will fight Lockjaw, a named lion. Once he's dead, you're going to activate the orb beside the bridge, kill the named Gorilla Truck. From here, head northeast into the Silent Grotto. Progress through the grotto, killing the trash mobs. At the end of the grotto, you're going to find the orb you need to pick up. Grab the orb, take it back to the gate in the Fractured Hollow to open the door. Clear all the trash mobs here, and you're going to head into the final boss fight, the Big Mammoth. So once inside the boss room, you're going to be fighting a Big Mammoth, and this boss has a spinning crystal hovering above his head. So paying attention to the crystal's animation is very, very important for this fight. The crystal is going to glow a specific color, which is going to tell you which attack is about to take place, which is key to understanding where your positioning needs to be and what you need to do in order to avoid the damage that's about to come your way. So there's several different attacks the mammoth will perform with the crystal as follows. So he has an arcane laser, and this crystal will light up with a bluish hue. The boss will then send out a laser that targets a player. Whenever you're targeted, you have to keep moving sideways in order to avoid damage. If you stop, you will take damage and probably die. The laser can be on you, but you have to move sideways in order to avoid taking the damage. If you're moving to the boss or back away from the boss, you will take damage. So move sideways in like a circular motion around the boss. The boss will also spawn fireballs and launch them out into the arena. So the crystal on top of the boss is going to catch fire, and then fireballs are going to be launched out. Getting hit by a fireball does deal a whole lot of damage. You want to make sure you dodge out of the way of these. So whenever you see that crystal light up, prepare to dodge. There's also a lightning bolt. So the crystal is going to spark and a lightning bolt will strike a player. There is Ice Storm. The crystal will light up white and the boss will cast an AoE Ice Storm in the arena. You will take quite a lot of dot damage while being inside of the storm, so make sure you move out of that whenever that appears. Then there are Void Balls. The crystal will light up purple and several Void Balls will shoot out, damaging anyone that is hit. The other major mechanic of this fight are the conduits and amplified abilities that happen whenever those conduits spawn. So you're going to notice that there's going to be some conduits that periodically spawn into the arena. Once you see one, it's important that the DPS focus down that conduit. However, make sure you're still paying attention to the boss and the crystals while DPSing the conduit to avoid getting hit by the attacks. You do not want to have your back to the boss and miss fireballs getting launched at your face. So make sure you're positioning yourself in a way whenever you're attacking the conduit that you can see the boss. That way you'll know when to dodge and how to avoid the attacks whenever they come your way. You can use the conduits as a shield or as a mechanism to kite around some damage if you need to, but it is important to take those out fairly quickly. because if the boss casts one of the abilities that matches a conduit that is currently alive in the arena, then that ability is amplified. For example, if there's a blazing conduit in the arena and the boss casts Fireball, then 6 fireballs will shoot out versus the 2 before. Or if the frigid conduit is in play, then the ice storm will cover up a much larger area than the normal version. So it's imperative that you DPS the conduits down as soon as possible, or the fight can get out of control. Outside of the elemental attacks and managing the conduits, just be aware of the stomps and the tusk swings. The big stomps are AoE stomps, so make sure you're away from the boss when this occurs. This is especially important for your melee DPS who are potentially standing behind the boss DPSing. This stomp will most likely one-shot you. So make sure you're paying attention to that animation as well as the animation of the crystal on top of his head. If you see him about to stomp, dodge roll out of the way and then move back in to continue DPSing. You do not want to get hit by that stomp. You probably will die. The tusk swings are just a frontal attack, so your tank should be able to bear the brunt of that damage, and you should be able to block through those no problem. This fight does get very, very hectic, so just make sure, again, I cannot iterate enough, make sure you're paying attention to the crystal on top of the boss's head. That is key to this fight. If all players are paying attention to the crystal and you know the mechanics that are about to come your way, and you know how to avoid them, then you'll be just fine. You can DPS this boss down and you will clear the boss no problem. On mutation level 3, this does get pretty crazy. So just make sure you're paying attention for the entire duration of the fight. Make sure whenever you're DPSing down the conduits, you have full view of the boss as well, because you will get hit by a rogue fireball or a laser or something that will take you out. So just be aware of your surroundings at all times and you will be just fine. That's going to do it for this, boys and girls. Thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. That was a full guide to the Savage Divide expedition in New World. I hope this helps some of you guys out. This expedition is a lot of fun in my opinion. I initially did not like this expedition, but it's grown on me quite a lot and it is probably one of my favorite in the game now. So I hope this guide helps some of you guys out if you were a little bit confused about how the mechanics work in this expedition. It can get very hectic, but it is super fun and super enjoyable and super rewarding whenever you can complete this thing. That's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you enjoy New World or enjoy New World content, please make sure to like and subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate that. And I stream every single Monday, every single Friday over twitch.tv/BDLG and right here on YouTube as well. Same day, same time. That's going to do it. Thank you guys. We'll see you in the next one.